Hello there everyone, and welcome to another edition of Lydia's Crafty Corner with me, Lydia, in my little crafty corner. So today I'm going to be sharing a fun technique where you can get really beautiful uncolored images as well as a really bold background behind. There are a couple of ways you can do this, but I found a really easy way. So I'm going to be using the Just Because stamp set, and I'm using this large image here. I'm going to stamp 3 panels, so I have 3 panels which are 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and I'm just going to place the image where I want it to be and stamp this 3 times using some permanent black ink. Once they are all stamped, I'm then going to do a little bit of magic. So I'm just going to use some masking fluid, and I'm just going to colour all of the images over the top with a paintbrush. So it's really easy to do. You just go in, paint over it, and this one does leave a slightly yellow tinge so you can see exactly where you have been. I find that using a small paintbrush for this really works well because you're really going to want to get into all of those nooks and crannies on these beautiful images, especially those little leaves. So a little paintbrush works really well. Once you've done that, you're going to want to leave this to dry. It doesn't take too long to dry, but you are going to want to make sure it is dry before you start on the next bit. So for the next bit, I'm just going to go over all of the panels with a ink. So for this one, I'm using some Lagoon, and I'm just using a mini blender. You could definitely use a couple of colours on one panel if you wanted to, but I just wanted to keep these really bold and graphic, so this is why I've just chose to use one colour with them. For my next one, I'm using my favourite yellow of all time, which is Honey Drizzle. This is my favourite yellow colour from Altenew and every other ink that I have. It is just so beautiful, and unlike any other yellow that I do have, and it's so much like honey that I do really like it. So this one did end up being my favourite panel. The next one, I am going to use some Desert Night. I am a navy girl, so I did have to do a really bold navy colour, and as you can see, the masking fluid is resisting that ink. It does have a little bit of ink on the top, but before I start on with anything else, I'm just going to take a tissue and I'm just going to wipe off all of that ink just so I don't get it anywhere when I do try to remove that masking fluid. Once I've removed all of the ink, I'm then going to remove the masking fluid. Now this is really easy to do. You're just going to need to rub it until it peels away. It's kind of like a rubber, an eraser kind of feel to it, and you just need to keep rubbing it away until it is all gone. And it is so beautiful just to see how bold and bright white that is against that dark background. So you can also pull it as well. I did find that pulling it away from itself worked really well, but I did have a little bit of an accident on my yellow piece when I didn't actually let my masking fluid dry as well as it should have done, but I am going to still save this. I am still going to use some of it. I'm then going to use the Bold Caps alphabet die to add my sentiment. I've got a little piece of acetate that I'm going to adhere my letters to. So I've got the letters for hello, and you can see I've got a sneaky little F in there. The reason I have that F is because it's the same width as the L, and I'm just going to use it as a spacer. So I'm just going to pop it into place when I'm putting all the letters down just to act as an L. But then before I cut, I am going to remove that F so it doesn't actually cut where I don't want it to. So as you can see, these line up really well. I'm just lining them up against each other. I'm just going to take a little bit of sticky off the F before I place that down, and then I'm going to add the O in then. Once the O is in place, I can then remove the F so I don't cut it accidentally as I have done before. So you want to make sure that you do move that out, but you have got a perfect space there later on to pop your L into later. The easy thing with this acetate guide that we've now got is that you can move these letters around to make sure that you've got them in exactly the right place that you want them to. So I'm just going to add a little bit of washi tape to it before I run it through my die cutting machine so it doesn't move now that I have got it in the place that I want it to be in. Once I've done that, you can remove that, and you can see how beautiful those little letters are as well, just with the beautiful stamping on there and the bold background. I love this look. It's such a different one, and I love how it did turn out. So as you can see, this is how I'm just going to add in the L. I'm just going to take the L on its own, make sure it's all nicely lined up, add a little bit of washi tape, and then run it through my machine just to get it exactly where I want it. And I find that just doing it this way works really well. You don't actually have to add it back onto the acetate sheet. A little bit of washi tape will work. So I'm just going to pop the cards together. For this Lagoon one, I'm just going to add this straight down onto a card base using some glue tape. I love this glue tape from Altenew because it comes out in little dots, so it only adds where you want it to add, and so you don't have any adhesive hanging over the edges. To pop in that little bit of the O, all I'm going to do is pop the O down without actually sticking it in, glue the back of the little piece that goes in the center, pop that into place, and then I can remove the O then, so it's nicely in place. I've then added some foam tape behind all of the letters so I can pop these all up just to add a little bit of dimension to them, just so that the hello does pop a little bit away from the panel, and then it's easily seen that way, even though you'll only be able to see it from certain angles. So once I've popped all the letters in, I wanted them to pop a little bit more, as you could say. So all I've done is I'm just taking a little bit of Wink of Stella and I'm just popping that over all of the letters. So this is going to add a little bit of sparkle and shine to these letters just to make them stand out a little bit more from the background that we've just created. Once this is dried, I'm then just going to take some glossy accents, and again I'm going to cover all of the letters. Because I'm using glossy accents, I did have to let it dry, and it did take a little while. But I was then able to start on all of the other projects that I did have planned with the rest of the panels and those lovely letters. So for the next panel, which is the Desert Night one, I'm just going to make 2 cards out of this one. So again, I'm just adding it down to my card base as before, as I did with the Lagoon one. And then for the second card, I'm just going to add the letters with foam tape onto a card base. I'm using a gridded ruler just to make sure all the letters are nice and straight and nicely proportioned from each side of the card. As you can see, I did add the H and the O down first, just so I could get a good gap either side and then work with the letters later on. So once I've done that, I did make a scrapbook page as well, so I'll show you that one in a second. But here is the one with the glossy accents and the glitter. Here are the 2 different cards using the same panel. I do love a 2-for-1 card, I must say. And then I created this scrapbook page using those letters. I loved the yellow ones and I could not let them go to waste, so I really wanted to play with them. And I think that they worked really well on this scrapbook page, so you can really play around with this technique and use it on many different projects. Thank you so much for watching. I really do hope that you've enjoyed the technique and that you give it a go. If you don't want to miss out on anything that we do subscribe to our channel, it would be great if you do subscribe. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye bye.